So, just so I understand you correctly, your central thesis here, your big game plan, you're going to replace and repeal Obamacare with Obamacare? You're just gonna call it something else. So that's what you're trying to sell me on here? Wait a minute, what? Well, now that you put it like that, I'm completely sold. Just like the idea of having a Western theme park with a bunch of robots that people can basically do anything to, and expecting nothing to go wrong. So what's up everybody, and welcome to another edition of AGR's Pop Culture Reviews. Now, this has been on my list for some time now. I've been wanting to review this series ever since it came out. I just didn't have enough time, and finally I've caught up to watching all the episodes, and oh my god, it's amazing. So let's take a closer look at this HBO series, Westworld. So I want you to try to imagine something. Try to imagine that there's a theme park out there, mostly for the super rich, in which you can do whatever the hell it is that you want. You can be as nasty as you want to be, you can be as depraved as you want to be, you can treat people, or robots I should say, however the hell you want. You can rape them, you can kill them, basically anything goes. And then imagine a self-reflection one day and how you would look at yourself. Well, that's kind of some of the themes that you find in Westworld, among other things which we'll explore. Now, the concept of this series is actually not an original idea. It's derived from the film of the same name, which was made in 1973, starring Yul Brynner. The only difference between the movie and this series is that the movie actually had 3 other theme parks, basically a medieval one, a Western one, and a Roman one. Now, the series is a little bit of a departure in terms of the subject matter and the themes that it chooses to explore. Now, the original film was more of a horror film, and although it wasn't too complex, it still tried to explore some of those themes. As a guest of Westworld, you can essentially do whatever you want, without any repercussions. If you recall from my One Punch Man review, think about the psychology behind this, where you can go to a world where your true and most animalistic natures can come out, without repercussions or judgment. What kind of person would you be, and when you look in the mirror, who would be staring back at you? It's really a lot of what the human condition is really all about, and what your innermost desires are, however depraved and indifferent to other human life. Almost immediately from its inception, this show brings up a very important theme about what is considered sentient life. Is sentient life only something that is birthed into this world, or does it go beyond that? Is it really about consciousness and self-awareness? And this is an amazing theme to explore, especially in this setting. You know, as I kept watching this series, I kept coming back to this very terrifying realization that what if one day I woke up and had the same day over and over again, and all these horrible and very vile kind of memories stored inside me, and I couldn't make any sense of them, only to find out that I was manufactured for the sole purpose of giving desire to anybody who would come to this theme park. That is horrifying. What really carries this show, even if you don't like the subject matter, is definitely the performances. Evan Rachel Wood is fantastic, and what I love about it is that every character represents a certain human characteristic. Now, she represents a longing for something else. She kind of comes to the realization that there is something else out there, and you see this constantly. It's a theme of her character, and it's pretty amazing. Anthony Hopkins is also in this series, and not since the character of Hannibal Lecter have I felt such a chill running down my spine anytime I see him on screen. Now, it's not necessarily that he's evil, it's more that he is kind of a genius who has a certain vision for the world, even though it might be a little misguided. Essentially, this character is playing God, and no good could ever come of that. The first time that I saw Ed Harris on screen was during one of my favorite films, The Right Stuff. And in that film, he was playing the American hero, John Glenn. Now, he's come a long way from playing an American icon, because in this show, he is one of the most sadistic characters I've ever seen. I'm telling you, he freaks you out, and he really represents the sadism that human beings have, and this indifference for other human life. It's freaking chilling, and he's really a bastard in this show. Thandie Newton is also really great in the show, and she's actually probably one of the most important characters here. Now, I can't really talk about her because it would ruin the show, but needless to say, she is one of the characters that kind of represents you and this self-actualization. So that's all I'm going to say about that. You know, I've never been a real big fan of James Marsden, just because I really haven't seen him in anything. I'm not saying that he's not talented, it's just I haven't seen him in anything that I've really liked. However, in this show, I am super impressed with this guy. I have to admit that he's really grown as an actor, and in this show, he is astronomical. Rounding out this brilliant cast is Jeffrey Wright, and he's been in just a number of great HBO shows and productions that they've had in the past couple of years. Jeffrey Wright is amazing in this show. He really represents our conscience and really is the only one who has some semblance of sanity, and he is an important character as well, and I can't talk too much about him. Overall, he's fantastic though. You know, ultimately, one of the great strengths about this show is the idea of trying to be a decent human being. I had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and basically she was talking about how she's afraid of not being a good human being because she's afraid of not going into the gates of heaven or whatever. Now, my retort to that, and again, I'm not trying to offend anybody who's religious, but my response to that was, do you think it's more important to be a decent human being without being a type of incentivization? Meaning that you should be a good human being just for the sake of being a good human being, and not because you're going to be rewarded at the end of this show. Or as Prince would say, after this thing called life. For me personally, and I'm not trying to be self-righteous here because Lord knows I'm not perfect, but it does say something more about someone's character when they're being a decent human being when nobody's looking, especially when somebody gives you essentially a blank check to be an asshole, and you still don't do it. And that's one of the most important themes about this show. Guys, I'm going to be really honest with you. When I first saw the promos for Westworld, the only reason that I had some inkling or some interest in it was because it was a Western, and you guys know how much I love Westerns. But thank God somebody kept telling and nagging at me to watch this show and review it, because oh my god, it is completely on a whole different level. The themes are amazing, basically the character development is incredible. I could see that they're really going somewhere with this, and you know what, not to talk too much about what the ultimate goal is here for the humans and the robots, but I just can't wait to see what's gonna happen. It's got me really anticipating season 2. Alright guys, so that's my official review on HBO's Westworld. As always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next AGR's Pop Culture Reviews.